We've all heard of Hygge, right? That cozy Danish thing with the candles and the blankets. But what if I told you it's actually way more than that? What if it's a powerful, engineered blueprint you can use to design your home specifically to fight stress? That's what we're going to dive into today. So let me ask you this. Is your home a battlefield for stress? I mean, really think about it. You get home, you're supposed to relax, but does the stress of the day just kind of follow you right through the front door? If you feel like you're always a little on edge, even in your own space, well, you're definitely not alone. It turns out our homes can become unintentional battlefields for a hidden enemy. Okay, so to figure out the solution, we have to start by identifying that invisible enemy. And this brings us to a really interesting concept called the friction of modern life. What we're actually up against is something called biological friction. It's not one big dramatic thing. It's that constant low-grade hum of stress from work emails, notifications, deadlines. You know the drill. It's like 1,000 tiny paper cuts that just keep disrupting our internal systems day in and day out. And this friction, it actually has a chemical accomplice, a culprit we can name cortisol. Yep, the famous stress hormone. When our bodies are just constantly flooded with it because of all these daily pressures, we get stuck. We get stuck in this state of high alert. And this slide right here shows you exactly what that looks like. On the left, you've got that chronic stress state. It's fueled by cortisol, it's our fight or flight mode, and let's be honest, it leads straight to burnout. But on the right, that's the goal. That's the desired state, parasympathetic dominance. That's your body's rest and digest mode. That's where real recovery happens. So the big question is, how do we get from the left side over to the right? Well, that brings us to our blueprint. We're going to look at how we can actually weaponize the Danish Hygge framework, turning it from a cozy vibe into a strategic system to fight back. So I need you to forget the cozy socks and hot chocolate for a minute. That's the commercialized version. We need to start thinking of Hygge as a high-fidelity design system, a deliberate, carefully engineered approach to creating a very specific biological outcome in our bodies. In the mission of this system, it's incredibly clear and it is not passive. We're talking about actively dismantling that biological friction we just mentioned. It's about literally weaponizing your personal environment against stress. And the ultimate goal? To systematically neutralize that cortisol. All right, so enough with the theory. Let's get into the practical side of things. How do we actually start engineering our environment? What are these so-called tactics of tranquility? The core strategy here is, well, it's pretty brilliant because it's so simple. This is not about some massive expensive home makeover. Nope. It's about deliberately, and I mean deliberately, engineering a series of small, micro moments of calm throughout your day, all within your own space. And this whole engineering process really boils down to 3 actionable steps. It's not as complex as it sounds. First, you design your sensory inputs. Then you establish rhythmic rituals. And finally, you systematize the whole thing for consistency, because that's what makes it stick. Okay, let's dig into that first step, engineering your sensory environment. This is all about being super conscious and intentional about what your senses, your sight, your hearing, your sense of touch are experiencing inside your home. So what's in our toolkit for this? Well, we're talking about things like using warm, indirect lighting. Think lamps instead of harsh overhead lights. Bringing in tactile fabrics like a wool blanket or linen cushions, and natural textures like wood. And also being really deliberate about sound, either creating quiet or using soft, calming sounds. You see, every single one of these things sends a direct signal of safety and calm to your nervous system. And now for step 2, establishing rhythmic rituals. So once you've engineered the space, you start building predictable routines within that space. This could be anything. It could be the ritual of making your morning coffee in that one favorite mug, or maybe reading for just 10 minutes in a specific chair every single night. It's the predictability of these rituals that is just so profoundly calming for our brains. So what happens when you combine this carefully engineered environment with these rhythmic rituals? Well, you get the ultimate payoff. You literally start to build a psychological fortress. And that payoff has a name. It's that biological state we were aiming for right from the start, parasympathetic dominance. This is the moment your rest and digest system finally kicks in. Your body isn't just not stressed anymore, it's actively recovering, it's repairing, and it's recharging itself. There's this quote that just perfectly captures the power of this entire idea.
By systematizing these micro moments, we transform domestic space into a psychological fortress. I mean, wow. It's not just a house anymore, it's a stronghold, actively protecting your mental and your biological well-being.
So, if there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. Your home can be so much more than just a passive backdrop to your life. When you use this framework, it becomes an active tool. It becomes an ally that is specifically designed and calibrated to start neutralizing stress the second you walk in the door. And that kind of leaves us with one final question for you. This doesn't have to be some huge project, okay? Think small, think sensory, think ritual. What's the one tiny micro moment of calm that you are going to deliberately engineer into your life today?